focus now is that hopefully together we will add some perspectives on the challenges of trying how to move the needle forward when it comes to poverty alleviation, but also to share some concrete examples of true impact, or again, in terms of poverty alleviation. And I thought we would start out by I will ask each one of you to start off presenting yourselves more, but also what sort of how you view your company's role in poverty alleviation, and give maybe some example of what you do. We'll not spend massive of times on that, but very, very briefly from each one of you. And why, Johanna, why don't you start from Swedfund?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So my name is Johanna Raynal, and I'm heading the ESG and Impact at Swedfund. Swedfund is the Swedish development finance institutions. So our mission, as stated by our owner, the Swedish state, is to alleviate poverty in developing countries. Our aim is similar than the Swedish development aid in general, but our tools are different. So we are actually investing in equity and providing loans for companies in developing countries to create decent jobs and increase access to essential products and services like renewable energy, healthcare, and finance. We have about 40 years experience in investing in some of the world's challenging countries, and we have a quite established business model that takes basically into account 3 different aspects. So we target and aim for development effects through our investments. We look into the responsibility of the companies, how they're being managed, and our companies, they need to be financially viable. And if we look further into the poverty alleviation, yes, for sure, I believe that business has a very important role to play, because 9 out of the 10 jobs in Africa are being created by the private sector. And if we look at the individuals living in poverty, having a job is one of the most important factors to help these people. And one person who gets a job actually supports 5 to 7 other people. So it is essential.
Yeah, truly so. Heather from Ericsson.
Thank you. Ericsson was founded in 1876 on the premise that communication was a basic human need and should be available for all. And while we have been innovating and really developing what communication technology means and enables, since then, we have also really understood through, again, collaboration with academic institutions such as Columbia University and under Professor Jeffrey Sachs, looking at the role that the information and communications technology infrastructure can play as an intervention for development. So if I step back before to deep dive into poverty alleviation, I mean, we have been doing this work since the mid-2000s when broadband technology was really at its infancy. So we have been testing, trying, listening, learning, and being on the ground. We did a lot of work in sub-Saharan Africa, where we really could understand the empowering effect of technology really as this intervention. So this was really even a precursor to this was during the Millennium Development Goal period, and so a precursor to the Sustainable Development Goals being launched. But with that experience, it really gave us insights and understanding, and again, looking at research. We are a technology company, so we are research, development, data-driven, and have that as our core. We could really, see the potential of technology to be a sort of an underpinning of the sustainable development of society. And I would just perhaps distill this into, what we've learned, what we've taken away, and how we are approaching this is that we are bringing our core competence, that is technology and innovation, but really that technology with a purpose, understanding, what it can enable, but also twinning that with partnerships for progress, working with like-minded organizations, whether that's Pratham and the Swedish coalition, or whether it's global organizations like UNICEF. Together, we are looking at how we can tackle sustainable development broadly, but certainly having some key interventions on poverty alleviation. Thanks.
Thanks. And Sofia from Atlas Copco.
Today I represent Atlas Copco, who is a business-to-business company in the manufacture of industrial machinery and equipment, an industrial innovator, but also an enabler of sustainable manufacturing processes everywhere. We support our customers to be competitive, but also to create a better tomorrow in industries such as electrical vehicle assembly, food production, energy production, windmills and solar panels, and much more. We are a global active company with employees in about 70 countries, and we are present in almost every market in the world. And as such, of course, we have a global presence, and in complex environments where poverty is a real issue. And we have an impact on these markets where poverty is a real issue. However, the majority of our supply chain operations and employees are in high or middle income countries. But we are nevertheless part of society and part of driving society forward. And how we act as a company, how we conduct our business, how we act as an employer is how we create a better tomorrow and impact society every day. How we engage with our business partners, how we engage with our local communities, being a local player, providing fair opportunities, and of course decent jobs, fighting corruption, skills development. You all know that these are the cornerstones of enabling poverty reduction, but also sustainable business environments. And this is something that we work as a company with every day. However, we also work with more directly impacting poverty alleviation. And I want to mention our main community engagement activity, which is called Water for All. Water for All targets access to water and sanitation for people everywhere. And of course, because water is a fundamental human right and so important for all the other aspects of poverty alleviation. It was founded already in 1984 by employees of Atlas Copco. And we partner with not-for-profit and non-political organizations in the countries where we work who have good local knowledge and who implement these projects. Our employees collect the funds, and the company twice doubles that amount with the foundation, with the funding that we give. Beneficiaries of this project should always be active in the planning and implementation of the actions to ensure the necessary ownership to ensure sustainable access to water and sanitation. A typical project could be digging or drilling a well, or providing building a system for rain harvesting, protecting a natural source of water, or building sewage systems. Atlas Copco was founded in 1873, and we have been driving our business for sustainable, profitable business since then in accordance with core values. As I said, Water for All was founded in 1984 and have provided access to water and sanitation to millions of people since then. And we will continue to do so for many years to come.
Andreas from Sweco.
That's right. If you don't know Sweco is Europe's largest engineering and architectural consultancy firm. We are now 19,000 consultants working all over the world with, we are advisors, planners, architects in basically all parts of society. So we work in buildings, infrastructure, energy, water, you name it. We probably have something somewhere in our 100,000 projects that relate some part of societal development. The SDGs are important to us. We see them as the universally agreed map of where we are heading, or what we have agreed upon. So it's a tool, it's a language we use, and SDG 1 is on top of it all. And we also see that a lot of the projects we do relate to poverty alleviation. But then it's mostly the underpinning systems we work with. We work with clean water, wastewater treatment plants. We work with electrifying Africa to let people spend less time surviving and more time thriving in what they do. And we also see that Sweden and the Nordics have a special relationship to the rest of the world. We tend to rank high up when it comes to sustainability performance. So we know that when we bring what we do here as bread and butter to the outside world and to areas where we have low and middle income countries, we can really make a difference in that. So that's our view on this. And a few examples, we have worked a lot with Swedfund, of course, and the financing from what you do. A wastewater treatment plant in Bolivia, capacity building in electronic waste systems, work with water availability in Botswana, green city feasibility studies, Kigali. We also help in Kigali the Swedish impact investment Norrsken to establish there and doing project management for them. One exciting project we have now is in Uganda with floating solar PVs to strengthen the capacity over there. So we're really keen on these projects and we see that we can make a difference with our advice. But poverty also relates to the Swedish market, I would say. It's hard to, we don't have a national definition on what poverty is, which is a bit strange. But we work, for example, with social services here in Stockholm, helping them to let people get out of gang violence. And we work with in Gothenburg with other projects there that also helps people with mental disabilities to get into the labor market. So I would say it's relevant for even us. We think that it's not here, but it is.
Yeah, true so. And then we have, thank you, and we have Eva from Saab.
Thank you. Eva Axelsson, Head of Sustainability at Saab since May 2021. And just a personal reflection, I'm so very glad we're here today. After 20 years within sustainability and last 10 within finance, of course, I'm very humbled towards all the positive effects or impacts we all can make together. So with that, Saab is a defense and security company. We have a presence in all continents. We were founded in 1937 for a reason. And in these worrying times, we can still see that the need for defense and security is more here than ever. And for that reason, we have a purpose to supply our customers, nations, with, again, capabilities for security reasons. We do so by capabilities underwater, submarines, land capabilities, and perhaps the most known, the Gripen fighter. So with those capabilities, we believe that our core mission is really to keep people and society safe. And for that reason, we have focused on sustainability for many years. Environmental concerns, labor concerns, and to be really local and with that local presence we heard earlier today as well. However, during the last year, I would say, we've accelerated quite a bit on sustainability to put all our efforts together when it comes to how we can combat corruption, how we can accelerate our commitments towards climate, and how we can accelerate also, as we're in the middle of now, the process on due diligence towards human rights and how that will include the entire value chain from suppliers to our customers. So with all that capabilities and the high-tech solutions that we provide our customers with, the core for us has been, and I think the value we can transfer to the nations that we deliver capabilities to is really the high-tech solutions, and to drive technology transfer in each and every country on a local basis where we are present, to drive education, to drive technology, research, development, partnerships, and to build up business capabilities with that local presence. And that focus is on really job creation at that site, but also with all the effects towards the entire society. But not just the core business effect, but of course, the whole basis of the sustainability development goals is really how different parts in society are truly interconnected. The triple helix model, how we are so dependent, again, on research, quality, education, and to the NGO partnerships. And therefore, of course, we're very proud to be part of that program, and to as on a local level also with other communities, for an example in South Africa, where we quite intensively work together with local communities to support the local strengths with income generation, and to really motivate our own employees to interconnect with that local presence. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now you know a little more about the people and the organizations and the companies they represent, because I thought that's good, because then you can also relate and think about what questions you want to address to them. I will start out by asking some questions to our panelists here. And one is, and I think several of you touched upon that in your introductory remarks, and it is about income generation, job creation. Would you say that you, as organizations over the past years, have you changed your approach to how you work with sort of trying to address and make the communities you operate in and contribute them to them thriving? Have you changed your approach over the years? We have the SDGs around us here on the stage, going back to 2015 when they were decided upon. Have you changed? What have you learned over these years? And you can just, start out, and I'll try to make everyone have a say. Yeah, Heather.
Happy to kick off. And I mean, Ericsson is active in 180 markets, and many of those we've been in for a century. So we do, and I would say our long-term, position has been to be a partner in the countries and communities where we work. So I think that remains, and certainly as a responsible business, as a responsible employer, as you said, really thinking about the whole value chain of how we work is certainly at a core. I mean, that as the business. But what we have, I think, again, just to say what I think we have learned over the past 20 or so years through the experience, learning, and listening is, that we do have a contribution to make into society that is very central to us as a company and as a business. And that is that, as I think certainly the global pandemic, one thing, that it certainly highlighted was the, how critical digital technology is, how the digital economy and society is really necessary. And so we believe it's very appropriate for us to be contributing to the digital inclusion of society. And if I take two examples, one is really around education, a very strong theme of today. And here, again, we think of ourselves from that technology perspective. It is how we can use technology to access quality education, but also how can we educate about technology, because it is also the digital skills that will be required to fully participate and, I would say, enjoy the benefits of a digital economy and society. And so I think, again, we have really tried to understand both our core competence and how that can be a contribution, a meaningful contribution in society, whether it is in a region or a community like Assam in the Pratham example with primary education and really enabling access to quality education, or whether it is a global initiative that we have together with UNICEF and looking at truly a public-private partnership to connect every school to the internet by 2030. And so it's, again, we really look for the opportunities where we believe that Ericsson is critical to the success of the effort, but where we also feel we have a meaningful contribution to make.
Andreas, you wave your hand.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think we have learned two things. The first is that we used to go there and be happy about making a system change or constructing a hydropower dam or something. But nowadays it's much more complex and interconnected and capacity building and leaving something more than just a technical solution. That is something. So even though we do sustainable business, we have to carry it out in a sustainable way. That has come up really in the meantime. And the second thing is that nowadays it's also two ways. We used to go to deploy something that we have found out in the Nordic market, but now also we take home ideas. For example, now what happens in Norrland when there's a new green industrialization, we have the ideas from how we constructed eco-cities in China when you're going to move up 100,000 people in the north. So it's both ways nowadays.
Yeah. And Eva?
Well, I think first and foremost, I think we all learn. Given the sustainable development goals that we were given and the agreement among governments and businesses really have everything is truly interconnected in terms of challenges, in terms of business opportunities, and really how we constantly need to learn on a local basis. And perhaps I wasn't crystal clear about that before, but really not just to transfer technology into a country, but really how we can take that back and learn together, and that how job creation can mature. So with the challenges that we truly have today, and I usually say we don't have a climate change, but we have a climate crisis, and the long-term commitments that we also before heard of today, it's truly important how every time we can learn in that technology transfer, how we need to bring more values, more solutions on the table. And I mean, honestly, we don't have all those answers to how should we then go to race to zero, net zero 2050 within our business. But that is something we have learned from, and we start to change, but we should change even more together, because I think together we do have solutions.
And Sofia, at Atlas Copco, have you changed your approach, or?
I think the whole world has changed its approach since the 20 years back. I think the view of a company's role in society and how do you sustainably and long-term generate value for a broader stakeholder group is something that is under development and is changing quite rapidly. And I can say that from when the SDGs were launched, I think we all also have more of a common language that is really, really helpful. That not only gives us the roadmap, but also a communicative framework that helps us interact with different stakeholders in society. Say, this is what we mean, and this is our role, and this is your role. So I think that is very helpful, and well, basically we did not have that before. So that's a huge change. When you look at Atlas Copco specifically, we've always strived to be a very local actor. So when we are in the market, we strive to be seen as and to be a local actor. And really that means that you have to be seen as a beneficial force in that society and that community. And of course, job creation is part of that. How you conduct yourself in the local society, how you engage with local community. And there are many, many different examples of how we do that with vocational training or support to schools, or interaction with academia and universities. One aspect specifically that we have been working for a long time is increase the level of girls and women that want to work in technological professions, for instance, to increase that pipeline of skilled and resourceful people that also are empowered to take on that career. And that is something that we do almost all over the world. So, yeah.
And Johanna, from Swedfund, does this mean also that you work in other ways in the partnerships with, for example, the business community? And how have you changed over these years?
Absolutely. I almost feel like taking the SGD number 17 and lifting somewhere here in the middle. For us as a development finance institution, one of our mission and target is really to mobilize the private capital into our markets, because the needs in countries where we operate and invest are huge, and lots of different actors and collaboration is needed. I could maybe share a short example or personal reflection. We conduct a very thorough due diligence on the investments that we do, and I traveled to Sierra Leone. We invest most of our portfolio, 60% of our portfolio is in sub-Saharan Africa and within renewable energy and climate, financial access, and we're investing SMEs. And I traveled in a rural Sierra Leone and was evaluating a company that was providing solar panel solutions for small rural villages. And it was really, I had the opportunity of interviewing people in that village and what really these solar panel solutions had meant for them. And it's quite a remarkable change how people describe that while they have an access on electricity, they can have a lighting in the evening. Children can study later in the evening. Women can charge the mobile phones in the villages, and really the access to mobile phone and digital technology, it allows you to study and learn or get access to the information. And of course, it also enables you and saves time. You don't need to travel anymore to take care of your financial business or pay your bill or get a small loan in whole day and be away from your work, but you can take care of that through your mobile phone. And it's of course a security matter for people. So I really believe that there is a lot of good challenges, there's a good of impact needed that the business and private sector can be solving in the developing countries if it's done in this difficult context in a responsible manner. So I think that's one of the learnings.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your different perspectives, and I hope you share my view that it is interesting to listen to these experiences. And I'm also thinking of something else, and we touched a little about on this during the conversation before the break, but how would you as an organization choose which type of engagements you actually engage in as a company? Is it a more traditional way of we represent a rich country which with profitable, successful companies, i.e. there is money and then we sort of give some away and it's for sort of traditional charity? Or is it very business related? And how do you prioritize? What would you actually sort of decide? This is the one that's right for us at Saab or Swedfund, or Swedfund, of course, you have your process, or Ericsson, and so on. And anyone speak out. Eva.
Not just from the Saab perspective, perhaps, but for, I guess, the view of businesses as a whole, if I may. But I mean, the old school is perhaps corporate responsibility. We do interact with local communities, and we do so perhaps more by charity. Given the common language, given the lens for how we together need to stay together, and the true strength and the muscle from businesses, really, when it comes to how we, with sustainability as a toolbox, I would say, again, on the different E, S, and G, then how we can deliver value and interconnection to society. I mean, the true strength is for a commitment and for the long-term focus to stay on track, to be focused, and to step by step deliver more, again, green technology, green solutions, more social values, and to be really to keep those societies resilient towards the natural sciences changes we see, towards all the social challenges interconnected into those, and really to stay in focus within your business with the sustainability toolbox. That I would say is the best answer.
And Heather at Ericsson.
I think building on that, because I think we share a similar experience. I think, I've been working within the sustainability area at Ericsson for 14 years. And at that time, I would say normally when we would meet with, a sort of civil society or NGOs, it was a fundraising conversation. It was asking for funding for very worthy initiatives. And what I think as you say, I think 2015 was a real pivot point, because we started to really, I think the private sector was more acknowledged for also having a value above and beyond merely funding. Certainly, funding is a component, no doubt. But I think that change and that becomes more of a meeting of the minds of partnership. And I think it is, how we choose and how we really think about this. I'll use the example of the GIGA initiative. This is a global partnership that we have with UNICEF and the International Telecommunications Union. And we were the first private sector partner to really join this initiative. It is the very ambitious goal, ultimately, of connecting every school to the internet by 2030. And we believe it can be done. It is a problem that can be solved, and it is one that we believe will also reap benefits, not least, by having a more educated, global citizenship will, we think, also contribute to poverty alleviation. But how did we really think through that? Well, again, I said, sort of our core business is the rollout of mobile network infrastructure. We work in 180 markets. We're 100,000 people strong. We have, our customers are the mobile service providers. So in Sweden, Telia, in the UK, Vodafone, in India, Airtel. And we really looked at how can we, as really, being part of an ecosystem, a virtuous ecosystem, contribute to societal development, but also that is very true to our core business. And, I think also gone are the days where it's either doing good or doing business. It is this intersection that I think is really where we see the greatest opportunities and the biggest impact.
Sofia and then Andreas, and then I'll move to my next question, and I'll start with you, Johanna, then.
I was just going to say that I don't think that it's either or, but it's both or all of it at the same time. I think you could look, how do you choose where do you want to put the most focus? I think you could look at it in this way, that you have three different pillars that can interact and support each other. One is, what kind of business are you in? What kind of benefits or value does that create, and to whom? The other one is, how do you conduct your business, irrespective of the answer to the first question? Do you conduct your business in an ethical, sustainable way that increases the value for the most possible range of stakeholders? And the third one is classic philanthropy, perhaps, which is giving away whatever you think you should be giving away to alleviate, perhaps, and back to the morning panels, if you look at it short-term and long-term. Because we know that there are short-term needs that needs to be met, and that can be met by philanthropy or other community engagement that are really direct. And I think depending on what kind of business you are, you will find your answer in different places in these three different pillars, and they can interact. So I think that's one way of looking at it. When we look at community engagement, it started, as I said, 1984. And it was really an initiative that was taken by two of our employees. At that time, I think they were located in Peru, drilling or selling drilling equipment, which was alluded to before. Very close to our core business, but also seeing then the local need for water access. And still today, it's a very employee-driven initiative that also gives a lot of pride and recognition and engagement, both in local communities, but also with the employer, to give back to the community.
Yeah. And Sweco, how do you prioritize and how do you sort of go about this?
We have a very clear business focus, and I would say that maybe we do it in the same way as the financial sector thinks on investing here. Of course, we divest, we don't go into fossil fuels anymore, and we also want to see whether we can make a difference for the citizen. And we want to go for the strengths of our company, which is combined complex solutions. That is where Sweden have a strength. So we are trying to identify and go for those solutions where we can be competitive. Otherwise, there's a lot of engineering and architectural competence out in the world. But this is where we still see that we are special from this region.
I would like now to move to also what we heard in terms of research this morning, and also the research that Martina is doing, evaluation, and knowing that you actually do create true impact. And then I'm thinking of Swedfund and all the work that's being done by Swedfund. Can you share sort of how you evaluate that you actually reach the impact that you think you should reach once you start out with a specific project?
Yes, so we have both, you could say, a theoretical approach and a practical approach. And we have built something called theory of change, where we actually define the type of impact that we want our investments to create. And that theory of change starts from the activities that we are creating through our business. And I think, as concluded already in the morning, it's very important to show concrete results from the work that we're doing. So the outcome level in our theory of change, we're actually able to measure the concrete outputs from the activities that our companies, our investments are creating. We are measuring how many jobs are being created directly by the companies, indirectly in value chains, what is the level of tax payments, how many people, how many women are empowered through the investments that we're doing, and the effects of climate change mitigation, CO2 emissions avoided. All of this kind of data we collect from all of the companies, and that data is being aggregated at the portfolio level. It goes through a similar level of audit than our financial data. So the impact data is equally relevant for us than the financial data. And then it's been reported annually in our integrated report to anybody to be able to see the results and evaluate the work that we're doing. So it's very important. I would say it's the theory of change, the intentionality of the change that we want to create, but also the ability to show data and results. And that can be, of course, complemented with a more thorough impact evaluations on different projects, if needed.
Because it's not easy, and I know that myself, because I do ESG reporting as well for Investor AB. And to really, measure and so the impacts, social impact, it's not easy. And how to get about it? Why, Andreas at Sweco?
I would argue it's impossible, but we still have to do it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the situation we're in, and that's why it's so important to focus on the results there. And a bit of word of caution for the financial sector now with building up all those systems of the EU taxonomy and other things. It's really hard to make that system work for everyone.
Yeah.
It has to be contextual. What's green in some place is not green in another. So you cannot produce lists of green and no green solutions. And also the systematic perspective is important, of course. If we look at the Swedish bioeconomy, for example, it's very sustainable here, but not in a Netherlands context. So all those things need to be more of a movement, showing a development rather than an end state, because sustainable development is not an end state from our perspective. And then my biggest headache is to evaluate our consultants. I mean, the projects we can evaluate, but what was the role? How can I know that we really contributed to that, that's tough.
I'll let Eva in, and I'll ask you to think about questions, because I know we don't have that many more minutes. So, Eva, please, how do you do it at Saab?
Well,
and
thank
then
you.
we will have questions from the audience.
And if I may continue, because I agree, it is a true challenge, but we still have to do it. And as a multi-international growth company, wanting to be domestic on a global scale, having those global policies, having the common language, having reporting requirements from our important stakeholders. Of course, we need to measure to tell you or ourselves where we are so we can continue on that journey. So in some cases, for climate, it may be easier to measure carbon dioxide equivalents. In some other cases, we may be measuring processes or activities, but they may be the case for now, because we need to continue. And we need to, I think the key word here, to be transparent.
Very, very brief from Sofia, and then I see a question there. At least we have one question from the audience. Okay, Sofia?
Very briefly, I'll just say that, I mean, if we're talking about measuring sustainability, we're really talking about measuring social, societal development, which is by definition really, really hard. And we should start looking at outcomes rather than actions and activities. I just want to say that the International Development Corporation, the global one, has a really good experience of doing just that. So I just want to say that partnerships between businesses, NGOs, but also in the international development corporations can really be helpful here.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We have a question here. And please tell us who you are as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Pernilla Baralt, and I'm heading UNICEF Sweden. And I'd just like to reinforce the importance of measuring impact in these days, because we have a lot of negative developments around the world. And I think we really have to, when we focus on which issues to choose, we have to sometimes focus on the ones we know we're going to be able to measure. And I'd like to highlight two huge deficit where we need to see impact, and that is the reading skills of children in the world today. Before the pandemic, 57% of every 10-year-old could read a simple text. After the pandemic, the figures from UNICEF is now only that 70% of 10-year-olds cannot read a simple text. Conclusion, we need to invest in education, and we need to be able to measure the number of children that go through basic education. These figures, we have the data, they are going down. We have to take them up. The other consequence of the pandemic is vaccinations. We can see how polio and measles are spreading. As a consequence of not vaccinating children, we can calculate the number of vaccinations. We can take them up. So I would like to congratulate all of you for the important work that you do, and together we need to show that progress is possible. We've taken these figures to the right levels before, and we have to do it together again.
Thank you. Yeah. Now we have a question here, or a reflection.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Louisa Bock, and I'm a sustainability manager at Axelsson. So thank you for a great discussion. We were talking a bit about the impact and enabling environment, and I was wondering if all of you could just comment on the intersection and, I would say, growing sphere of public affairs and sustainability. I know a lot of my colleagues from the sustainability area were quite frustrated with the EU. Legislation is moving quite slow. We know that pricing usually doesn't take into account externalities and so on. And I think it's a sphere that is moving into our, the whole ecosystem that we see now, rather than the silos. So it would be interesting to hear if there's growth in that area, how you see that public engagement and moving more into that political sphere of things to move things along faster. Thank you.
Yeah, Heather.
I can start, and I think it was interesting when I was listening this morning, and sort of this delineation of sort of not, the boundary, not getting into politics, but I would say policy, and really advocating for enabling policies that we understand will help to catalyze the sustainable development of society. I think that is, again, it is I think it is a responsibility of companies to make sure that those are understood and known by policymakers and really have those dialogues. So I absolutely think that that is an important role. And so, you know, when we are working in a country and on global initiatives, we are also engaging with governments, whether it's a Ministry of Education or of ICT, to really ensure that there is a clear understanding, and also we hope to drive a joint objective and a joint commitment to reach that.
Yeah, Eva, and then Andreas.
Just reflect again, coming back to the history and the importance of how businesses support policies. The Paris Agreement might be one of the best cases. I believe that in 2009 we didn't have that process before the meeting. Maybe one of the reasons why it wasn't really that successful. 6 years later, politicians and businesses had learned that we need to prepare for the meeting and really commit and bring the solutions to the table. And that, I believe, is our duty to do. What technology capabilities can we actually bring into society together?
Andreas.
No, I agree, and it's a good observation. I think public affairs and sustainability are merging together, and we should really focus on that. We're also engaging in the UN COP meetings, and these are one of the few exceptions where we actually work for free as advisors, so to say, when really being telling the policymaker what is needed in order to advance sustainable development. So it's super important.
Thank you. And I think time is running. And I would like to thank our panelists, Eva Axelsson from Saab, Andreas Gyllenhammar from Sweco, Heather Johnson from Ericsson, Sofia Svingby from Atlas Copco, Johanna Raynal from Swedfund. And I hope that we together, by this conversation, have tried to answer the theme of this conference today, i.e. the role of business, and not only the role, but also the responsibility of business in reducing poverty. So thank you all, and thank you all of you also in the audience.